I actually brought my man card.
I thought it said meth, and I was like, I can't talk about that. I was told not to talk about that.
Because I figured for this film I would just take the man card now and just tear it up.
Yeah.
Because I really like this film a lot. Probably more so than I should have, maybe.
Yeah.
But
you should.
Yeah. But you know,
I mean, you should though. But what's interesting is that the period. I mean, it is it is a great period piece, but it kind of falls away after a while, and it's just about this chick and this dude and them being crazy in love.
Right.
And I when I spoke to Jane after seeing the film, the final cut, she asked me what I thought, and I hadn't remembered in such a long time how insane it feels like to be in love for the first time when you're young.
Right.
And how it feels.
And without the internet and without all the blogging and Twittering.
Right.
The real soul emotion of it.
Yeah, and I guess that stuff still happens, but it's like I just remember just how life or death it used to feel like, and
right.
I mean it still kind of does, but it's tempered nowadays. It's like that first time it happens, it's a little more kind of freight train heading for the cliff sort of feeling.
Especially, I guess, with her and John. I mean, because not every guy writes the kind of letters and stuff that Keats did. I mean, for her to mourn for like 3 years.
Yeah.
Of course she was 18. She was young.
Girls.
Girls.
Chicks.
Yeah. But I love but not just so much the love story, but we've been talking about just how different the times were and how slower things were. We're not bombarded with technology and everything. And there is that chance to really, walk in the woods or to sit for hours and talk and read. And I think that kind of helped the soul maybe to grasp more than maybe it does now. Well,
what's funny is that me and Ben and Jane got together to talk about this stuff, and I mean, I guess I like poetry, as much as the next guy, but I'm no great, no great authority on it by any means. I mean, Ben with his English education is far smarter and knows much more, and I had to find some kind of a way into how to view these guys, because writing poetry was like such a big deal to them, and me as Paul Schneider, I'd have to just lie and be like, man, I rocked that poem so hard, man, it's real. I think I got something there. And so she and I and Ben discussed the fact that in this day, poets were kind of like the indie rockers of that time period. I mean, they had like...
They're the Kurt Cobains.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They decided not to study medicine, as John did. And because of that, a lot of them chose sort of like this sort of out of the mainstream life, being poor, and they had a certain amount of sort of street credibility, and sort of viewing this stuff as, kind of as kids in a band made a lot more sense to me, and I felt like it was something that, then I just had visions of like Led Zeppelin getting together for the first time, and like that made more sense to me.
But a lot more polite. It was a polite society then, just the way they treated each other and just the relationship, and there wasn't the booty calls back then that there are now.
Well,
I
got a little booty call at the end there with the Irish maid.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But still, there was that love because he was a writer, and there was still that. Maybe it was just the society's air and provisions and stuff. So.
Well, it was funny because also this is sort of about the middle class, you know what I mean, of this time period. I mean, I think we're used to Jane Austen, and we're used to Pride and Prejudice, and we're used to a certain distance and formality when we watch a movie like Room with a View or Howard's End. Both movies I think are fantastic. But there's that Merchant Ivory feel you're sort of going to that film for a different reason. There's a symmetry in the compositions. There's a bit of a distance in the way that you view those movies. You're sort of there to watch this beautiful spectacle about the past happen in front of your eyes. And what Jane did, which I thought was really interesting, is that she has this period piece, but she shoots a lot of it handheld, really close to the actors' faces. So there's not that distance that a period piece usually makes you feel. and all of a sudden you're in there close, and these two kids kiss, and you kind of hear their spit, and you can sort of hear their hearts beating, and it's this very intimate affair, and that to me was the most interesting thing, the fact that this thing is like so relative because it's just about first love, and everybody hopefully has that experience, as retarded and tragic as it ends up being, but also we're looking at a period piece from a very near perspective. There's not that deep proximity that you feel with other.
That's what was so endearing, and it did have that almost indie feel to it. It
Right.
wasn't like this over the top.
Well, she also wrote the script so that the language wasn't inaccessible, I mean, all the language that we used was obviously appropriate of the time, but we're so used to a heightened way of speaking when we watch period films, and she definitely wanted this one to be a very relative language, because, I mean, we don't know much about the middle class because only rich people have the leisure time to write about themselves, so that further generations down the line will be like, oh, this is how life was back then. But it wasn't really, because it was just a certain class of society that had the time to tell us how life was at that moment. Right. But this story was sort of about folks that had money trouble, some that did, some that didn't, and that spoke about life in a way that is, it's not. I mean, it's gorgeous language, but it's not the way I feel about Shakespeare, which is sort of like, I wonder if I'm too dumb for Shakespeare sometimes.
Yeah. And there was that underlying wit, too. There was like that little edge of wit that they brought to it. Now, there's a quote in the press notes that says, describing you as an actor, says, it's very bold and experimental, looking for ways to ground things and make them real. What did you bring to Brown for that? What part of Brown's character did you put any of those elements into to make him what we saw? To make him, I guess, more real and grounded.
Well,
or was he the most fly by night?
I don't know. I mean, the way that I kind of go about it is, there are a couple things to hang your hat on. One was the costumes. You put this thing on every day, and you know that you're not yourself anymore. Because I'm not wearing that often.
In public.
Yeah. And then there was the accent. So there were two very concrete things that I could hang what I was doing on. I think and I've heard people say like it felt grounded. I've heard people say that it felt real, and I mean I've heard people say that about a lot of the stuff that I've done, and I think if they're feeling that, I think it's fantastic. I feel very lucky that they get that off of it. A lot of times I'm feeling like I'm not doing anything. I need to figure this acting crap out. And like, because I'm wondering if I'm doing the right thing. But I know that if you go into it consciously thinking about words like grounded or real, you're going to screw it up, because all you're going to be is self-conscious about what you're doing. So I tried to focus pretty hard on Ben, and when Ben and I were having a conversation, the last thing you want to do when you're acting is be thinking about yourself.
Right.
So I just kind of focus in on Ben, and then maybe if real things happen here, well, they might happen, but they're happening in the back half of my brain.
Right.
Because the minute you name something, it becomes conscious, and then you're gonna screw it up.
Yeah. Well, it worked. It was a fantastic job. So
I hope so. I appreciate talking about it.
Yeah. Appreciate your time today, man.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Do it again sometime.
Yeah, we will next time you're in. What was the last one you were in for?
It was All the Real Girls.
Yeah, I didn't do the press on that one, so
Oh,
I don't know. We
long
must
time
run into
ago.
each other maybe somewhere.
Yeah.
You never know. You did television this morning? Is that what you did?
Armed Services something or other.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they were